Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video, doing the final GWV Sunday Round Up of the year for today's second video. So this is the final time is going to be your eclectic Sunday afternoon mix of this and that. We're going to look at things like sea surface temperature anomalies, what's happening with ENSO solar activity. We're going to see what's going on in terms of the Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation, and of course the weather for the next week to 10 days and beyond. So sit back and enjoy on this very warm Sunday afternoon. Solar Sunday has been released, so this is the final Solar Sunday of the year as well. Of course, we wanted to bring you that at the beginning of the month, but wasn't able to, but we've fitted it in for the end of August, so have a look at that. It's on the homepage at GWV.com. Just scroll down the page and you'll find it above the pollen count. And later on today, that's going to be placed on the Solar Cycle 24-25 updates page. There'll be a written summary going over everything that we discussed in the video with that one as well. I'll get back for you probably around 7 or 8 o'clock this evening. Also coming up later on this afternoon, we're going to have a little sneak peek for the winter of 2019-2020. So that's just going over the methodology of the winter forecast and the winter updates, explain what we're going to be looking at in the winter updates, which are going to begin just 1 week today on the 1st of September. That's the reason that we are putting the Sunday roundups on the shelf, of course, because the things we look at in the winter updates are very similar to the things that we discuss in GWV Sunday Roundup. So we've just been repeating ourselves if we carried on doing the Sunday Roundup. So that's the reason this is the final GWV Sunday Roundup of the year. So it feels a bit like end of term, doesn't it? Let's get on with the final GWV Sunday Roundup for this year. So I'm going to start off looking at what's happening in the tropics. So this is where I think we better begin. We've got two areas of interest. We've got a orange X just here near Florida, and then we've got Tropical Storm Dorian down there in the tropical Atlantic. Let's deal with the orange X first of all. So that's disturbance 1. It's got a 60% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours. National Hurricane Center is saying as of 2 a.m. EDT on Sunday, the 25th of August. 2019, showers and thunderstorms remain disorganized in association with a trough of low pressure that extends from south central Florida northward over the western Atlantic for a few hundred miles. Environmental conditions appear to be conducive for gradual development, and a tropical or subtropical depression is likely to form within the next few days while the system moves northeastward offshore of the southeastern United States. Interest along the coast of South and North Carolina should continue to monitor the progress of this system. And an Air Force reserved Hurricane Hunter aircraft is scheduled to investigate the disturbance later today if necessary. So we're going to put a plane up and have a good look at it later on today. So in the next 48 hours, there's a 60% chance, medium percent chance that this is going to become a tropical storm. In the next 5 days, though, there's a high 80% chance that this will become a tropical storm. This is very likely, I think, to become either tropical or subtropical storm Aaron. And then, of course, we have Dorian down here. So let's see what's going on with Dorian. That is the current position of Tropical Storm Dorian just there. Dorian is expected to start moving in towards the Caribbean over the next couple of days, forming a Category 1 hurricane just there, and then as it heads up towards the Dominican Republic and Haiti, it looks like it's going to go down, and Puerto Rico as well, it looks like it's going to go down back to a tropical storm. So it briefly makes it up to Category 1 hurricane. This storm going to be Category 1 Hurricane Dorian on Wednesday by the look of it. That's the forecast. And then back down to a tropical storm as it moves further northwards towards Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and Haiti. Things definitely are livening up in the Atlantic at the moment. Tropical Storm Dorian, as of 5 a.m. today, is giving maximum sustained winds of 40 miles an hour. It has a central pressure of 1,008 millibars, and it's moving west at 13 miles per hour. So it's going to go in that sort of direction. And by the time it gets around here, it looks like it's going to be down to a tropical storm, but it does briefly make it to a Category 1 hurricane. We'll keep a very close eye on what's going on there in the tropical Atlantic. Things look like they are beginning to start livening up after a very quiet start to the season. Coming back to home, very, very warm day today, so I thought we'd just have a quick look at this. Latest observations from XC weather. So we've got 29 degrees flashing away down there. That's in Riyadh though, so it's not a UK temperature. In the UK at the moment, as of 10 to 11 in the morning on 25th of August, we have Headcorn Aerodrome at 27 degrees, and we've also got Southend at 25 degrees. Let's have a look at a few more places. High Wycombe is at 24, Luton Airport is at 24, Bedford is at 23. These are pretty high temperatures for so early in the day. Oxford is at 24. Clearly we're going to get up to 30 degrees and beyond today, so I think 30 degrees, 86 Fahrenheit will be widespread across much of England and Wales this afternoon, particularly central and eastern parts of England. And 32 definitely is likely in a few places. That's 90 Fahrenheit. Wouldn't necessarily rule out one or two places going slightly above that, maybe to 33, 91 or 92 Fahrenheit. So it is going to be a hot afternoon out there. It's exactly a month, of course, since we had the record-breaking heat in July. That was on the 25th of July. I think it's 25th of August today. So we appear to be in a repeating pattern. And the final week of June also had impressively hot temperatures as well, particularly upper air temperatures. So we appear to be in a repeating pattern where the final weeks of the months are coming out pretty hot. I'm sure it's just coincidence. There's no particular reason why that should be the case. So anyway, going to be a very warm, hot afternoon out there, and tomorrow will be just as hot too. This is how things were looking in terms of sea surface temperature anomalies when we did last week's GWV Sunday Round Up. We have our three areas of interest. We've got the equatorial Pacific Ocean just here, the ENSO region. We've got the Northern Pacific Ocean up there. And then, of course, we've got the North Atlantic around here. That's how things looked last week. This is how things are looking with the latest sea surface temperature anomaly map from NOAA. And dealing with the ENSO region first of all. So again, going back to last week and then going forwards to this week, we can see that the signature of a weak La Nina is continuing to develop really in the central and eastern part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. You have these blue colours, which are the colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies, are gradually moving in that sort of direction. So we now have a few little patches of blue, even making it into the central part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean just there. Most of it is still over towards the eastern part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean, and then going down towards Chile. It does look really quite cold indeed with those sea surface temperature anomalies off the coast of Chile. That can often be a precursor to a cold event. So looks like very, very gradually, week by week, we are slowly inching our way towards a weak La Nina type signature. Further north in the Northern Pacific Ocean, it remains very, very warm with sea surface temperature anomalies up here towards the eastern and northeastern part of America, and or northeastern part of the Pacific Ocean, I should say. That's western and northwestern America, actually, and Canada. So significantly warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies there. That's been sort of a consistent feature over the past few years. Has waned a little bit at times, but we've generally seen a lot of that since around 2014, 2015, I think. And then over in the Atlantic Ocean, so it remains much warmer than average to south of Greenland. Then a little bit further south of that, we have this small area of colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies just there. Rest of the Atlantic looking quite warm as well. So if things begin to develop with the hurricane season, tropical storm season, certainly from a sea surface temperature anomaly perspective, there's no problem in sustaining storms and hurricanes, getting them to develop. These sea surface temperature anomalies are not particularly cooler than average through the tropical Atlantic. In fact, they look relatively warm, and most of the Atlantic Ocean is in quite a warm state, which is a little bit different from what we've had over the past few years. We have tended to have quite a cold Atlantic sea surface temperature anomaly profile since, again, around 2014, 2015. So this is a little bit different compared to what we've had over the past years. I think this is the warmest the Atlantic has been probably at this time of the year since around 2012. We'll discuss that much more when we come on to winter updates, of course, though, because there's sea surface temperature anomalies in the Pacific and the Atlantic. They do play a big part within the winter updates as we look to see what's going on in the great oceans. The oceans are one of the primary drivers of the weather, and particularly so in winter. So much more on that when we get through to winter updates starting, of course, next week. Southern Oscillation Index next. So this is from Queensland Government, which I think is part of Bureau Meteorology in Australia. Southern Oscillation Index is an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state in the Southern Ocean. It's not driving anything. It just tells you what the atmosphere is doing down in the Southern Pacific Ocean. When the SOI is in its negative phase, the atmospheric state will be reflective of El Nino. When the SOI is in its positive phase, then the SOI will be reflective, the atmospheric state, I should say, will be reflective of La Nina. So back in the start of the month, we did have very negative Southern Oscillation Index, actually. So back in early August, SY was quite negative. For example, on the 2nd of August, it was down to -14. Then went very positive for a few days. We got some real positivity of the SY, telling us the atmospheric state sort of swung into a La Nina type setup. 9th of August, for example, comes out at plus 22.94. That's a very positive SOI number. They went negative again through the middle part of August, just there. So, for example, 15th of August comes out at minus 19.85. And at the moment, what seems to be going on is that we're lurching between positive and negative phases and days. So we have the 17th, 18th and 19th of August coming out with positive numbers. Then we have the 20th and 21st coming out with negative numbers. We have the 22nd and 23rd coming out positive, and then we have the 24th and 25th coming out negative again. So the atmosphere seems to be sort of swinging between a positive and negative SOI state, which probably tells you that overall the atmospheric setup is kind of around ENSO neutral now. But we can see on this chart, which is showing the 30-day SOI average, with this red line, we can see how quite dramatically so we've gone from a very negative SOI that we had at the end of July into the start of August up to not a positive SOI particularly, but certainly trending in a positive direction. It's actually around neutral at the moment with the SOI. So that's a big rise up in the SOI from around -8, -9 down here to around 0 up here, which is where we are right now. So the SOI appears to be moving into more of a positive phase. It appears to be trending towards La Nina. We've got colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies gathering in the eastern part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. So everything seems to be pointing towards a weak La Nina, perhaps setting up through this autumn. We should see about that. I thought I'd just throw this in. We have done Solar Sunday today, as I said at the start of the video. So that's a 50-minute video looking at solar activity with solar cycle 24, and also has quite a bit on the coming solar cycle number 25 as well. But I thought, as this is the final GWV Sunday Round Up of the year, we would have a quick look at solar activity. So this is the solar disk on outside of this today from solarham.net. Spotless again, no sunspots at all. We are now into solar minimum. I think that is very definitive. We can see it on the GWV's solar activity tracker. This is from Solar Sunny. James Aqualocal friend sent this through for Solar Sunny, but I thought we'd include it for this final GWV Sunday Roundup as well. So again, just see how the trends are on the floor. The orange line here is depicting each individual day's sunspot numbers. So back around the start of the year, we was getting quite a few days with sunspots. Most days still had a very small level of sunspots, but they still had a small level of sunspots. The days that had sunspots on the sun were outnumbering the days that didn't. That's changed. It changed around the middle of May, and really we can now say that the days without any sunspots are definitely and definitively outnumbering the days that have sunspots quite clearly, quite obviously. So we have the orange line pretty much, not completely flat line. There are one or two days there that have tiny levels of sunspots, but generally the orange line is flatlining on the floor, and so are our trends, which are the thick red and thick green lines there on the floor of the chart as well. This tells us that I think we dropped into true and definite solar minimum around the middle part of May, just there. Before that, we was approaching solar minimum, but not quite there. But I think in May we did drop into solar minimum, and we're likely to stay at solar minimum for probably 6 to 9 months, something like that. So I suspect it'll be sometime through the first half of next year that we begin to come out of solar minimum and move into solar cycle number 25. Although it could be longer than that, it might be 12 months. You never quite know when you're going to go from one solar cycle to another until it has happened. But yeah, solar minimum will continue for the next few months, and of course the winter of 2019-2020 is going to be the solar minimum winter, I would have thought, of solar cycle number 24. So we look at solar activity because there is a connection towards blocking when you have low levels of solar activity, and particularly when you're around and after solar minimum. It's often first 2 or 3 winters of the new solar cycle that tend to be the coldest, actually. But when you're around this period of solar minimum and just after, that's when you increase the chance of northern blocking. And northern blocking, in the winter anyway, is a route to getting cold air out of the pole and into mid-latitudes. Bear in mind, there's caveats associated with that. It's not a guarantee of a cold winter for any one place, particularly not for the UK. There are other great drivers of the weather, such as what we're just talking about, the oceans, for example. So what they're doing is important and critical as well. It just kind of loads the dice a little bit in favour of a colder winter outcome via northern blocking. So blocking, that's important. And bear in mind, if one place on the cold side of blocking, somewhere else you're going to be on the hot side of blocking. A good example of that is what's happened this summer. Western parts of Russia have had a very, very cool, miserable, wet summer. It's been a terrible summer across Western Russia. Central parts of Europe have had a very hot summer. That's all down to high pressure blocking. So Central Europe has been on the hot side of a block. Western Russia has been on the cold side of the block. So where the high pressures, where the blocking features set up, that is always of critical importance. We'll be looking at solar activity, of course, through the winter updates. This is how things are looking in terms of Eurasian snow cover and also Arctic sea ice. So again, no snow cover whatsoever across any part of Russia except over mountainous areas, I suppose. But generally we're snow free across Russia and Siberia at the moment. The first little white patches of snow will begin to appear sometime through September. So it's far too early really to be expecting to see any snow cover across Russia or Siberia. Going north into the Arctic, this yellow area just here is where we've got Arctic sea ice. We are, of course, now heading towards the peak of the melt season for Arctic sea ice. So all of these little yellow areas just here, these little areas of the Arctic sea ice, they're going to go in the next few days. And we're essentially going to see the all of this area becoming ice-free. So it's a big melt season, this, although possibly we're pulling back from the decimal year of 2012. This is from the National Snow and Ice Data Centre. So this grey line is sort of a trend line for this for the year, really. So you can see that at the moment we are, of course, these are the dates down here. At the moment, we are, of course, heading into the peak of the Arctic sea ice melt season. We bottom out sometime around early to mid-September, sometime around there. And then, of course, as the cold gathers pace over the Arctic, we see sea ice trending back up, coming back up again as the refreeze commences through the autumn. So if I just put in 2019 this year, you can see it has been very big melt season, much bigger melt season than average. That's where we are right now with our Arctic sea ice extent. So we are well under the grey trend line. If I put in 2012, that's the record minimum year for Arctic sea ice extent. That was called the death spiral back in the day. You can see for most of the past few weeks, we have been trending actually just a little bit under 2012 death spiral years. That's the blue line for this year. The red dash line is 2012. But in the past few days, we've actually started to pull up from 2012. We saw this was probably going to happen last week, and it's confirmed this week that we have, if I zoom in a little bit, you can see a bit better, we have pulled up just slightly from 2012. So it looks like what's going to happen is that we're going to do something a little bit like that, and we won't reach the depths that we did 2012. Of course, something unexpected might happen, and we might beat 2012, but at the moment it looks as though 2012 will probably keep the record for minimum Arctic sea ice extent. In any case, it's a very, very big melt season. It's a massive Arctic sea ice melt season, and we'll be keeping an eye on that over the next few weeks, of course. Arctic oscillation observed and forecast charts looking like this. So the black line shows where we've been with the Arctic oscillation, red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. So we've been in a prolonged negative phase of the AO throughout the whole of the summer, really. Arctic oscillation has been trending negative, with a few exceptions. A few days have popped up to neutral or slightly positive, but overall you can see clearly the AO has been trending negative territory. That's where we are right now, just on the negative side of neutral. We're going to pop up to positive AO in the next day or so, and then drop back into negative territory. But as we get through to September, that's the 1st of September just there, so that's going through the first week, 10 days of September. It does look as though the AO might be heading up towards positive territory. So getting into the beginning of September, it appears the AO could be starting to move into its most pronounced positive period, that we've had for quite a while. Probably have to go back to the first months of the year, probably back to March and early April, when the AO was quite as positive as that. Remember, the AO is an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state, similar to the SOI, really. So when the Arctic oscillation is in its negative phase, you've got high pressure, you've got blocking up over North Pole. When the SOI is in its positive phase, you've got low pressure over the pole. So as we've had this massive melt season over the Arctic that we've had here, a lot of that has probably been caused by the blocking that we've seen through this summer over the Arctic. We've seen lots of high pressure around Greenland and over the Arctic as well. That, of course, allows sunshine to beat down, so it hasn't been the cloudiness, it hasn't been the cloudy skies that will keep the temperature somewhat limited in the summer. Instead, we've had probably lots of sunny days over the Arctic, and that, of course, accelerates the melt season. You see where all these things are kind of interconnected. If the AO is trending into positive territory through early September, that would, of course, mean that we've got low pressure developing over poles, so probably signs of the polar vortex beginning to reform. And that, again, would kind of imply that we bring an end to the melt season, and we probably won't reach the death spiral that we had in 2012 with this melt season. Although, again, have to re-emphasise, it is a massive, massive Arctic-sized melt season that we've had again this year. North Atlantic oscillation observer forecast looks like this. So black line again, showing where we've been with the NAO, red lines at the end, showing where the GFS ensembles forecasting the NAO to go. This has been in a prolonged negative phase as well. So both indexes have been negative through the summer, telling us we have had a blocking pattern through this summer. So for the hot weather that we've had, it has been quite a warm summer, really, this, especially down in the south. I think we've done quite well with this summer. A lot of summers that are sort of negative AO and NAO summers, they tend to be quite cold, wet and miserable summers. Think of sort of 2007, 2012, those kind of summers tend to be what you expect when you've got both the Arctic and North Atlantic oscillations in their negative phases through the summer months. So we have had some pretty cool wet days through this summer, but I think overall, especially for England and Wales, especially in the south and east of England and Wales, it's probably been a hotter summer than you would have expected, given the fact that the AO and the NAO have been trending negative throughout these summers. Anyway, where we are right now with the NEO is around neutral, and again, similar to the Arctic oscillation, it does look as though we are entering into a much more positive phase of the NEO as we get to the end of August and the beginning of September. It looks like we're coming out of this prolonged negative phase of the NEO. This tells us the pattern overall is definitely shifting as we're heading into September. We're seeing a strengthening of the Azores high. We're seeing the Icelandic low coming back. We're probably seeing a formation of the polar vortex as well. So all rather different in terms of the overall setup as we go into September. Positive AO-NEO in September could mean two things. It could mean the Azores high is ridging in, and that will give us quite a dry and warm pattern for September. Alternatively, of course, it could mean that the westerlies are powering up, and that might give us quite an unsettled month in September. But it definitely looks like things are shifting in terms of the overall pattern now as we're reaching the end of the summer of 2019. Let's do some forecasting. So have a look at the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. Let's go to it. So red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for London. Very warm at the moment. Going to stay very warm for the next 3 or 4 days to around the middle part of the week. And then here comes the drop in the temperature for the second half of the week. Will turn much cooler. There could be thunder associated with that on Wednesday. Bit early to say definitively how this hot spell of weather breaks down in the middle of the week. So more on that probably on Tuesday. I would have thought we'd know much more by Tuesday whether this is going to be a thundery breakdown or not. But potentially storm watch will be coming up on Tuesday. Temperature then cool down into the beginning of September, so that's 1st September just there, which is a week today. See the temperatures ticking up a little bit and then dropping down. Overall, it looks like the first week of September still trending relatively cooler with the upper air temperature. Precipitation-wise, so it's going to be a lot of dry weather, of course, over the next few days. This is for London, so it's one of the drier places down in far southeast, but plenty of dry weather up to next weekend. So again, that would imply perhaps not much of a thundery breakdown, although there are a few precipitation spikes just there. They are pretty minimal. So how this heat wave is breaking down midweek, a lot of questions about that. And then beyond that, into the first week of September, gradually looks like it's turning a little bit more unsettled, although you wouldn't look at that and say it's a particularly wet ensemble at all. Temperature anomalies from the 24th of August to the 1st of September. Warmer than average in most parts of the UK. Central parts of Europe looking very, very hot, and Northern Europe too. Still looks pretty cool, doesn't it, across central parts of Russia. It remains pretty chilly there. Precipitation anomalies from the 24th of August to 1st September. Overall dry than average, taking a little bit wet across the far northwest of Scotland, but generally on the dry than average side. So warm and dry hold sway for the final week of August. Over in America, east-west split continues, so they've had a pretty cool summer across eastern parts of America this summer, and that's carrying on for 24th of August to 1st September, cooler than average through these eastern and midwestern states. Out in the western states themselves, though, towards the Pacific side, much, much hotter there. Been a very hot summer in the west of the states and a cooler summer, I think, through the Midwest and into the eastern states. Precipitation-wise, varying from state to state, looks a little bit wetter in these southern and southeastern states, interestingly. Very dry in the west and northwest. I assume there must be a drought going on through these western states of America, because it has been consistently hot and dry there. So I would have thought drought conditions now likely across the west northwest. If anyone is watching from America, we do have a few people watching from America. I can see from the viewing stats on YouTube that we do. So if anybody is in the western states and knows whether there's a drought going on, let us know in the comments. But I would have thought it must be very dry now over those western and northwestern states. Elsewhere, as I say, southern and southeastern states look quite wet. In the northeast, it looks pretty dry. Coming back closer to home then, this is Wednesday, so this is the breakdown of the heat wave on Wednesday. We have a trough moving in off the Atlantic, indicated by the kinks in the ice bars just there. That might be a trigger for thunder on Wednesday, we shall see. By Thursday, we're pushing cooler, fresher air in off the Atlantic, so all places will be cooler by Thursday. If you don't like the hot weather, you're just going to get to midweek, and then it will break down. That's Friday, so building up a little bit of a ridge in the south on Friday. That keeps things pretty dry down there. The air will be cooler, but it'll still feel pleasantly warm in the sunshine. Further north, low pressure probably bringing a spell of wet and windy weather into Scotland. Next weekend looks like that. So Saturday the ridge holds on in the south, still looks unsettled up in the north, and then on Sunday probably pushing a trough through and bring down cooler air from the north and from the northwest. Heading up towards day 10, we find that we go into a rather showery and potentially quite cool northwesterly flow. That's how we look at day 10, which is Wednesday the 4th of September. We look quite unsettled actually, with low pressure starting to move in from off the Atlantic, relatively cool as well. And the extended range with this GFS run does turn things increasingly unsettled, actually wet and windy by the time we get through to Sunday the 8th of September. A deep area of low pressure, or autumnal area of low pressure, is bringing wet and windy conditions, finishing up as far as we can go, which is Tuesday the 10th of September, finishing up with quite a chilly northerly wind. We've actually got the -5 ice firm there beginning to head towards the far north of Scotland. That's over 2 weeks away, so almost certainly won't verify, but this is an indication that we might see things becoming more unsettled as we go further into September. GM is looking like that. So again, breakdown of heat wave taking place on Wednesday, and then we go to Thursday and to Friday. The south looks relatively dry. Under this ridge, the air will be cooler. Up in the north, it's wet and windy with low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. Into next weekend, gradually turning more unsettled through the weekend. So we've delayed this from Saturday through to Sunday, really, but through next weekend it does turn more unsettled with bursts of rain heading in from the Atlantic. And up to day 10, generally quite cool and unsettled. That's Wednesday, 4th of September. Winds are in from the north or northwest, so quite cool and a little bit showery as well up to that point. And there's more low pressure, by the way, waiting in the winds in the Atlantic, so I suspect that will start to roll our way if we could go on beyond day 10. ECM is looking like this. So again, we're breaking down the hot weather on Wednesday. Could be thunder involved with that. Thursday through to Friday looking like this, so quite unsettled for the north in the second half week. There will be spells of rain for Scotland. England and Wales mainly dry with a lot of fine weather. The air will cool down a little bit second half of week definitely, but still pleasantly warm in the sunshine. Through to next weekend, that's Saturday, so mainly dry on Saturday, and then the low pressure coming in on Sunday. That could bring a band of rain with it for the first day of September. Then into the extended range of ECM up to day 10. Again, similar to the other two models, turning more unsettled. So the message from the models today appears to be that the first week of September is likely to turn more unsettled. The only thing I would say, again, I tell you this in videos all the time, this point of the year, uncertainty due to what's happening in the tropical Atlantic. The models are not very good at handling tropical storms and hurricanes, so that has knock-on effects for the wider weather system. And so these charts that we're looking at here, days 7, 8, 9, 10, they're a very, very long way out at any point of the year, but particularly so it's accentuated at this point of the year. But we're going to have a look at CFS V2 next for the next 4 weeks. So these are the 500 millibar anomaly charts for the next 4 weeks. Starting with week 1, 25th to 31st of August. The coming week has above average heights sitting to our east, below average heights out to west. We're drawing up these very warm, hot, initially southerly to southeasterly winds. All change at week 2. This is the 1st to the 7th of September. Low pressure is out to our northeast. High pressure is in the middle of the Atlantic. That starts to pull in much cooler air from the northwestern part of the Atlantic. So much cooler and unsettled, probably quite unsettled anyway, through the first week of September. And then looking very unsettled in week 3 on this CFS run. This is the 8th to 14th of September, with low pressure, trough of low pressure centred over top of the country in mid-Atlantic ridge. Jet stream would do something like that. That would be a very cool and unsettled first half to September if that came off. It's very different from what the CFS was showing yesterday, mind. And then we get through to week 4, which is the 15th, 21st of September. A ridge sitting across eastern parts of Europe, extending back into the Arctic, that will bring very warm temperatures up the eastern side of Europe. For us, we've still got this trough of low pressure towards Greenland and Iceland, but it looks like it's lifting out a little bit. Ridge path strengthening down towards the Azores, so maybe signs there for middle of September it starts to turn a little bit drier and warmer as the jet stream begins to drift north. But the 2 weeks before that, the first couple of weeks of September, it does look really quite unsettled. Temperature anomalies for week 1 with CFS 25th to 31st of August, warmer than average. Week 2 is cooler than average. Over the first week of September, it's coming out cooler than average. Week 3 also comes out cooler than average. And then week 4, which is 15th to 21st September, that one is closer to average, nearer to normal. And precipitation, so let's have a quick look at that. So yeah, precipitation for week 1, which is 25th to 31st of August, close to average. Does tell a little bit more unsettled later on. Week 2, this is a little bit surprising actually. It looked quite unsettled, didn't it, for the week 2 500 millibar high anomaly. It looks relatively dry, particularly to the southwest from the 1st to the 7th of September. I think it will be more unsettled than that. Week 3 is close to average. I think that will be quite unsettled as well. And then week 4, really no signal. It's too far out to have much of a signal. Perhaps a drier week there from the 15th to 21st of September. The overall 700 millibar height anomaly for September with CFS looks like that. Above average heights out to our west and northwest, but also to some degree extending a ridge through the country. Probably low pressure down here, although it doesn't really show it all that well. So for the south, it could be more unsettled than for the north and northwest, actually, on that setup. Temperature anomaly for September, very close to average, not particularly warm, not particularly cold, either way. And precipitation anomalies, finally, they're coming out around average. No signal, really, for precipitation for September. I think the suggestion of the 700 millibar height anomaly, though, that we have there is probably for the north and west to be driest, and the south and east may be wettest in September, which would be quite an unusual pattern. And that brings an end to GWV's Sunday Roundup for this year. So just say that if you've been enjoying the Sunday Roundups that I've been doing over the past few months, since January right way through to today, 25th of August, if you've been enjoying them, then please go and consider becoming a patron for GWV. We have 65 patrons so far, so hello and a big thank you to our 65 patrons. If you would like to become a patron for GWV, then all you need to do is come to GWV's Patreon page, sign up for a Patreon account, and be given an ongoing monthly donation. It could be anything from $1 a month upwards to GWV's, and that is how you become a patron. You get a shout out in the video to say thank you very much for doing that. So big thank you to our 65 patrons. We're trying to get 70 patrons for Christmas, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to achieve that, but it would be nice if we could. Alternatively, you can give a donation through PayPal. So hello and thank you very much to all of our PayPal donors as well. If you would like to do that, then just come to the GWV's PayPal page, sign in to your PayPal account, and then give whatever donation you would like to GWV's. And again, by doing that, you mentioned in videos as long as you want one. We'll say thanks so much, and we'll give you a shout out in the videos. Right, so that is it. That draws to an end. The GWV Sunday Roundup. No more Sunday Roundups now until probably the start of next year. We've got the winter updates commencing 1 week today, and this afternoon we're going to have a sneak peek for the winter of 2019-2020, and I'll talk you through the methodology. I'll explain everything that I'm going to be looking at through those winter updates, which begin 1 week today on Sunday the 1st of September. There is a couple of long-range models included in that as well, so you have a little look at 1 or 2 longer-range models in the winter 2019-2020 sneak peek. That will be coming up probably around the middle part of this afternoon. The Solar Sunday video will be placed on the Solar Cycle 24-25 updates page later on, probably around 7-8 o'clock tonight. There'll be a written summary that goes with that. So, there we go, the final GWV Sunday Roundup of the year. Hope you enjoyed it. That's all for now then, and thanks for watching.